then look at what other people have to face. Every successful person has faced difficulties in their life and career. My guests will share with us the challenges they have overcome on the road to success. Every week we'll follow their story right here in Life with me, Patti Boulaye. Where'd you go? Hello, welcome to Life with me, Patti Boulaye. My guest today is MP for Romford, Andrew Rosindell. I have I've known Andrew a long time, and he still looks the same, very young. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here, Patti.
Oh, thank you. You know, I met your mum.
You've met her several times.
I met her many times. Yeah. What an amazing woman. How old is she?
She's 93, actually,
Yikes!
Believe it or not. Yeah, she's still going strong.
So you've got a good pedigree.
I hope so. I need one because my job is 24/7, and you need the energy, and you need to really keep going the whole time. So I hope so anyway.
I know you have this
good genes
energy.
With a bit of luck.
Good genes. But what I like is your relationship with people. You're a people's person. It's always that glint in your eyes, you know? There's always that smile that's welcoming.
I think in my job you've got to be. If you're not...
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't engage with people, and if you don't genuinely look at their lives and the issues they're facing and try to show empathy with them, then you shouldn't be in politics, because you're only there really to do good for the people, and that's what right. I've always tried to do.
Well, sometimes I feel some people go into politics to do good, but then get lost along the way because they get frightened. The public are not easy to look after. There's no two ways about it.
You're completely right, but I hopefully haven't got lost. But then I've had you to guide me all these years. I've known you since I was a teenager.
I know.
Such a long time. And I first heard of you when you were on the Monty Modlin programme on LBC. Do you remember that in the studio?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Back in the early 80s.
Oh, now you're going back. It feels like 100 years to me.
It does.
It really does. And then my husband and I, Stephen and I, met you quite a few times during when Mrs. Thatcher was in government. Well,
Mrs. Thatcher was a great inspiration to me, and she was the reason I really got involved in politics, because she was the radical of her day. You know, people say she was very conservative, which she was, but she was incredibly radical, and she had a greater vision for our country and for our people.
I liked her strength.
She was strong and determined, and she stuck to what she believed in.
Precisely. You see, because I believe women, I had to speak in Parliament to 200 women who were going into politics. And I was on a panel of about 4, and all the others were talking about the usual thing, which I sometimes just think, okay. So when it came to my turn, I said, well, listen, you're all women. Said, you need to go into politics as women. If you don't know how to go into politics as a woman, how are you going to know how to go into politics as a man? And I kind of gave them an example and say, if there's anyone in this room who is not born of a woman, please stand up. Nobody stood up. I said, that's the power you have. I said, you're a woman, you should be, I didn't want to mention Mrs. Thatcher or, I just said, because we had a few heads of states too in Africa, female. And I grew up knowing about female leaders in Africa, even in history, queens who were pretty tough. And yet, for women you have to excuse me, because when women say equality, I say equality. Somebody like you gave birth to the men. You're superior. I said, I'm superior. I've brought up, nephews. I said, you're supposed to be guiding them, not pulling them down. And trying to be equal.
But we've been very lucky in this country because we've had a woman head of state. We've had the real boss has been there for 66 years.
That's
incredible,
right.
Incredible.
That's incredible.
And 2 women prime ministers. So
I know you're very fond of the Queen, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
It's wonderful. So am I.
What a wonderful person to lead our country, and the Commonwealth as well.
The Commonwealth.
Must never forget the Commonwealth.
I was a child when she first came to Nigeria. Well, not first came to one of her visits to Nigeria, and it was incredible. We had cloths made with her image on it, and they still exist. from all those years. You know, everyone, I mean, she was the queen. And then I came to England and found that people really didn't. I thought, what? You know, she is the queen.
Yeah.
And I think I might have told you this because during the Golden Jubilee, I had to speak to captains of industry in Great Britain, and there were members of the government who said because the Queen Mother was, you know, and Princess Diana, and it shouldn't be celebrated, there were apathy. And I'm thinking, excuse me, 50 years on the throne? I mean, that's a God-given right.
Absolutely.
And none of us will see that again.
Well, the only previous monarch to get to that stage really was Queen Victoria.
Victoria.
And so I remember the Golden Jubilee really well because at the time, as you've just said, a lot of people said, well, why should we celebrate it? Why should we make it into a national occasion? But, you know, to his credit, Tony Blair was Prime Minister.
Yes,
and he made sure that there was a celebration.
That's right.
And what an incredible event that was. And then the Diamond Jubilee 10 years later.
It was, you know, I mean, to be honest with you, the way I saw it was, at that time, it was just after the Twin Tower, you know, terrorists.
Yeah.
Okay. And the whole world, I mean, the whole world was crying because there was something evil happened in our world, something really evil. And then the Golden Jubilee, I thought, wonderful. Yeah. So when I stood up to speak to these people, I said to them, you cannot miss a chance of Britain putting a smile in the face of the world once more.
And we'll carry on doing that. I have no doubt about it.
God willing.
We will.
Because I am always praying for this country, especially now that we're kind of going on a different path. You know, we need prayers. And I say to people, why do you know, wait for somebody else, government, when you can do things? It takes every single one of us because we're part of Britain. As long as you live here, it's like this universe. It takes every single one of us to make things
And I
happen.
think that's a strength of our country. If you trace our history,
yeah,
we're an island people, and people have chosen to come here and to contribute and to help us build a strong country and to make us prosperous and to give us what we've got today.
That's because you went out there and adopted them.
We did, yeah. Well, I'm glad we adopted you.
Absolutely. I'm glad I adopted you too, because honestly, I adopted this country because I just, you know, when I first came here, it wasn't easy, you know, in the early 70s, because they still had those signs, no dogs, no blacks, no Irish. And I thought, well, I don't want to eat them. So I'm not going in there if they're serving dogs, blacks and Irish. It was just my innocence. But in all of that, there is, I don't know, there is something about Britain. There is something very special that I hope never gets lost. You know, no one can put their finger on it. I always say that Britain used to go to war for God and country. And yet we have discarded God. I mean, it's so difficult. Even students come to me and go, you're so brave to talk about God. I'm going, excuse me. This is a godly country. It was, because I remember for God and country. So I said, what's happening? Are we going for country now? If there's a fight, we're going for country. I said, no, that will not change.
But I think you're right. And I think those values, that Christian heritage that we have, that should never be discarded because our traditions, our laws, our conventions,
virtues,
all of those things are based on that.
Yeah.
So whatever people's religions are, and of course we have a tolerant society with every religion is respected as long as it's within the law.
Exactly.
But our traditions and our laws and our conventions are all based on that. And I think actually it's very welcoming and everyone's equal under the law. And I think that's really important and should never be discarded.
Tell me about growing up. When did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Okay, it's a funny situation because when I was growing up, I was interested in politics from a very early age. And in those days, if you wanted to be an MP, quite often it were people who they used to say they wore the old school tie. You've heard that expression.
Yes, I have.
Now, I didn't wear the old school tie. I just went to my local comprehensive school. And then they said, well, to be an MP, you've got to have gone to Oxford or Cambridge or one of the top universities. Well, I didn't do that either. So a lot of people said, you'll never be an MP. But I ignored them and I fought to become an MP. And I think that because of that determination, and nothing has ever prevented me from looking forward to that ambition and achieving that, I've been determined to do it, despite all the obstacles that get in the way.
Yeah.
And my message really to everybody is that in life you can achieve things, you can, but you have to believe in yourself, you have to have a purpose, and you have to stick at it. If you give up and get distracted, then you won't get there. But if you stick firmly to the path and you don't let yourself be distracted from that, you can achieve anything.
And don't let anybody tell you you can't.
100%.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do in life, the world is there for everyone to seize those great opportunities. And that's why I love Britain, because it is a nation of opportunities for everybody.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, when I teach at university, and some people say no. But then, you know, I mean, I guess the world is never perfect. Okay? And it's what you make it, actually. The world is what you make it, quite honestly. And I say to people, you know, a lot of people complain because I give lectures at Middlesex University, and I go, we had a debate this week, and there's some people who just like to be victims. You can't help them because they don't see themselves. If you say to them you can't, then they go, oh, well, I can't. Okay? And then there are people like you, they say you can't. You go, well, what's to stop me?
Exactly.
And I'm the same. If you say I can't, then you've just given me the license to go for it.
Exactly.
You know? If you tell me I can't, then I'm going to go, that's the one I'm going to do.
I think increasingly we have to challenge when we're told we can't do things.
Yes.
When the Jobsworths and the bureaucrats tell us that's not allowed, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I do it all the time as an MP.
Yeah.
I challenge what I'm told. And by doing so, hopefully we get back to common sense again. Because in the end, if we just follow every rule and regulation and every bit of advice we're given, we'll never go out of our doors. You know, we'll stay at home.
Absolutely.
It'd be too dangerous to do anything. So we have to challenge what we're told if we want to make changes for the better.
I like the word you use, common sense. That's one of my favorite words. It's not so common. Okay, common sense disappeared. I don't know. It's on holidays.
Yeah.
Because people just don't use their common sense. They ignore their common sense. It's logic. But you were councillor and MP of your hometown. I think that's a record, isn't it?
It's not a record. There are many that represent their hometown, but very few. There's a number, but not huge numbers. It is unusual. I'm very lucky because being an MP representing the place where you were born and brought up and went to school and you know everybody and it's your hometown, it means so much more than if you're parachuted into a part of the country where they don't know you and you don't know them.
That's
and okay,
true.
you can make it your home, but I actually think that for me, it's a huge advantage to being, you know, a Romford boy, born and bred, and now their Member of Parliament. And
Actually, I have to say I visited you.
many times, yes.
And I saw the effect you
I
had
get
on
worried
people.
because I think that they're going to want you to be the MP instead of me, Patti. That's what worries me.
Believe me, do not worry about that. Politics, definitely no for me, because I think it's such a tough business. I look at politics and I think I can see why Jesus was nailed to the cross, because people are difficult we are so difficult to look after. Seriously. Human beings are probably the most difficult creation God has created. Yeah, well, we saw the evidence. His son came healed, did all the good he could, and what did they do? Nail him on the cross. Exactly. So I just think that we are difficult. And to be a politician is a no.
And I think you're right, Patti, and I think people need to think not just about themselves, but about how others see the situation.
Yes.
And to try to have a greater understanding about the issues that we're all facing. And instead of to blame everybody, to actually think, well, what can I do?
What can I do
to make things different and make things better, rather than to be selfish? And that's what MPs have to think about.
Yeah.
We've got to think about the wider good of our communities and the country.
But you see, you have a problem because it's very difficult to please everyone.
it's
very
difficult, and it is impossible, really.
It is,
Whatever you do, someone's going to complain
Precisely,
and criticise the decision you've made. But you have to have guiding principles, and if you have those guiding principles, and you can look someone in the eye and say, "This is why I voted the way I did. This is what I said, and not why I believe it," then even people that disagree with you, hopefully they'll respect the fact that you've made that judgment.
You're a very brave man. That's what I can say. Because, I mean, okay, you love people. I can see that. I have always noticed that. It's your relationship with people. That's the key thing about being a politician. If you love people, I suppose you can maybe survive politics. But if you go into it because you want to help people and you don't have a heart for people, then it becomes really tough. Yes. Because, like I said, it's, they will hang you out dry to dry in the end of it because you'll be so confused.
At the end of the day, there's no point in being in public life if you don't have empathy for the people you serve. And equally so, it's a quid pro quo, because if I ignore my constituents that have voted me in and I'm not there to help them with all the issues they face on a daily basis, then why should they then want me to continue as their MP?
That's
it's a two-way thing.
Yes.
And I believe very strongly in building up a personal relationship with my constituents and genuinely taking an interest in what matters to them.
I also love, I love your love for Britain, for the Queen. I really love that because you fly the flag. Yeah, because a lot of people don't like flying. I remember doing a TV program when this guy, I think he was an accountant or something. It was in Manchester. We were doing a TV program, and he was there. It was at the Millennium, about the Millennium Drum. He was there about not flying the flag, and I was there about flying the flag. I said, there's something wrong with this picture. You're British, and I'm from Nigeria, and I'm going, let's fly the British flag. I love it, and you're going, it will upset me. See, I've never understood that kind of nonsense. But then you do, not just in Parliament, you do international work, okay? Because you've always invited us to different things that you put together. It's fantastic. I mean, it's just, you don't just do things for Romford or Britain. You get people from China, from, my goodness, there was one I came to, I went, how did Andrew get here? Different countries, it's brilliant.
Well, first of all, I mean, I think flying the flag is really important because it should be a unifying symbol. It represents our history, it represents our people, it represents everything we are. That wonderful red, white and blue flag. Why not? Let's fly it. Let's be proud of it. And I remember when I first became an MP and they wouldn't fly the Union Jack from the Houses of Parliament every day of the year because they said that it was against tradition, that the Queen looks out of her bedroom, Buckingham Palace, and if she sees the flag flying, she knows the House is sitting. If the flag's not flying, she knows we're not sitting.
Okay.
And they said, you can't change that tradition. And being a traditionalist, I sort of thought, well, maybe they've got a point. So I checked it out. The Queen came to Romford. I had very privileged to sit with her over lunch. And I said to Her Majesty, is that true? Do you look out of your window and see the flag flying?
She said, where?
And she said to me, she said, I've never heard that before. She said, if I want to see if Parliament's sitting, I switch on BBC Parliament. That's what she said.
Well, there you
go. Ever since then, I took it back and I said, this is crazy. Let's put the flag up and let's be proud of our country. And since then, they did agree, and now it flies every day of the year.
Fantastic. Well done, you. I should have known that was something to do with you because you're so strong on that, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I think that going to your point about international, I think that our flag and our traditions and what Britain has done over a very long time, contributing to development and evolution of the world, has been a good thing. And I'm not saying we've been perfect, the bad things have happened as well, but
nobody's perfect,
overwhelmingly, Britain has made a wonderful contribution to the world, and that is now shown with the Commonwealth of Nations and the respect that we're held throughout the planet. Everywhere I go, people say, we love England, we love Britain, we love your Queen.
Absolutely.
And I just want the British people to feel pride in that as well.
Yes, me too. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Too many want to pour a bucket of cold water over it all. I think that's terrible.
It's too much trying to please everybody else. It's too much trying to please everybody else. And I say to people, I mean, I was speaking this week, and I said to the students, you want to change anything, look in the mirror. Change the person in the mirror. Because if we all do that, then we'll have a better world. Not looking, always blaming somebody else or condemning someone or doing, you know. Andrew, it's so good to have you in the studio. Thank you so much.
Wonderful
because
to
I
be
know how
here.
busy you are, and I just so glad that you could come in.
It's been a real privilege, and I'm busy, but I'm never too busy for you, Patti.
That's a good note to put. You see, friends, huh? I tell you what, out there, never give up. If somebody says you can't do that, then that's why go for it. Because they've just given you a license. Don't say, oh, well, oh, maybe I can't. No, someone says you can't, go for it and do it. And follow your dreams and stay happy. Fly the flag. We'll see you next week. God bless. Thank you so much for coming in.